Today I'm joined by Councillor Jack Murray of Sinn Féin, sitting councillor on the Donegal County Council. Running again for election for Sinn Féin. You've been selected to run again. Running with two other
candidates, two running mates in South Initial, Terry Crossan and Niamh McGuinness, and two in North Initial, and then Albert Darley and Tony Devine. So five in total for Initial.
But people want to know what Jack Murray thinks. That's what this interview is about. This is about you. So we're going to be talking about things people have asked me to raise. One of the most crucial things we know for Donegal right now, we know it stretches into other counties, but we're talking about Donegal, is the defective concrete box.
Yeah, of course.
Do you think that the scheme that they have at the moment works?
No, it's failing. It's failing terribly. You were at the meeting as I was last week, and when over 1,000 people crammed into the Initial Gateway Hotel. As Michael Doherty says, that says that something's gone very badly wrong. I think those people spoke with one voice that the scheme as it stands is not working for them. They feel failed, and they want not just that grand scheme as it stands completely scrapped, but a new scheme implemented. Sinn Féin and Paddy McLaughlin and Pierce Doherty spoke quite clearly for us, said we would implement an entirely new scheme, end-to-end 100% redress, as is requested. We would reconstruct the pyrite remediation board that's there, to see an end-to-end scheme. So just like the people in Dublin that when they're affected by pyrite, the pyrite board came, they handed their keys over, they were re-accommodated, and they came back to their house fully repaired as they had left it. Actually repaired and as they had bought it, I suppose would be a better term for it. So that's our commitment, and I do believe that Sinn Féin, with Eoin O'Brien as Minister for Housing, Pierce Doherty as Minister for Finance, and Mary Lou McDonald as Taoiseach can deliver that.
So you do agree with the homeowners that they are being treated differently than to what the people in Dublin were being treated when they had they had pyrite, but they are saying that it's a two-tiered system, they're being treated differently because they're in Donegal?
Absolutely agree with that. The Dublin North Leinster, the pyrite affected houses have been fixed, and there was barely an uproar. There was no 20,000 people marching the streets of Dublin to get that. But yet, if you walk here, 100 yards, you'll be walking into the house that's just completely fallen down. We've known about this issue now for more than a decade. People are still demanding. They're still packing into halls like the Initial Gateway Hotel. They're still taking to the streets, and people are quite clearly unable to access the scheme. There's people, I know them, that simply can't even get as far as applying. They just don't have the money in their bank account even to get that far as they apply. So clearly there's a two-tier system, and clearly the people of Dublin are getting treated differently than the people of Donegal.
Okay. So some people have asked me to raise the issue that 1 in 7 families who are in a defective concrete block house have somebody with a disability. So would you pledge to them that you would raise the issue of accessible emergency housing?
Absolutely. That goes without saying. We want the scheme for everybody to be prepared.
Yes.
But of course, there's no point in moving somebody that has a disability or less able into accommodation that's not suitable for them. That simply wouldn't be fair. And we will be looking for suitable accommodation, not just alternative accommodation, but suitable accommodation for the people that need it. Of all family dynamics that do require that.
Yeah, and another couple of issues that were raised to me were, we know that there's another storm forecast for this weekend, although we are only under a yellow weather warning. When we were under the red weather warning in January, and it was quite a significant storm in January, there was quite a lot of damage done.
Yeah.
And we've seen afterwards a lot of families were able to upload videos of more structural damage that were done to their homes, and they uploaded the fears that they had while being in them homes. One woman in particular told me that she actually went and sat in her car for a bit because she felt safer in her car than she did in the actual house she was in. For future weather warnings, because we know these houses aren't going to be fixed overnight. We know that there are many families looking into another winter being in these homes with defective concrete blocks, and given the lack of emergency accommodation, they are wanting some assurances from the council that, be it community centres, be it just centres that are owned by the Donegal County Council, can be made available for them during these red weather warnings. Is that something you'd be willing to look into?
Of course, look, we need accommodation. We need it now. Like, we would have focused quite strongly, Sinn Féin as a team, on the need for modular housing, immediately. We don't have time to wait on this. And as you said, the weather warnings, people did upload their videos, people would have phoned me, terrified, petrified of what was going to happen. Let's say this is over a decade into it, and these houses are getting worse. So unless the scheme is expedited, made more accessible, alternative accommodation is made available immediately, then we are not long, I fear, from a fatality or some form of human disaster.
Yeah, because we actually seen that video. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but did you see the video where we know Paddy Liver, who's been an activist for 100% redress, was able to just push a chimney off the roof? It was a house that was going to be demolished, but just to prove a point of how unstable these houses are, he actually went up onto the roof and he was able just to push against the chimney and it came off. I mean, families are terrified that the gable was going to fall on top of a car with somebody's parking or a child playing. These are really serious concerns for these families, and they are going to be looking into another autumn, another winter in these homes.
Yeah, look, I've seen those videos. I've seen other videos with the likes of the roof getting taken off and the four walls just collapsing. There's only being held together by the roof. We know that there's houses there with bison slabs that could collapse. I know of a family a number of years ago who had moved the entire family, the kids' bedrooms from one end of the house to the other because they felt it was safer and less likely to collapse. That's how fearful they were of their children's safety as they sleep at night. Like there's nothing that's affected Donegal as serious as this. Like in my lifetime, probably in this generation, and it just has to be resolved. And I think it's one thing as Donegal people, every single person understands it. Everybody's behind it, and everybody like there's people in the streets of Dublin who weren't affected by the affected blocks. Like they'd come. It was an act of solidarity from all of us in Donegal for those that are affected.
I don't think there's any of us that even don't know a person whose house is affected, be it a family, be it a friend. Most of us actually would struggle not to find a family member that isn't either renting or owning a house that has defective concrete blocks. So leading that on into the housing crisis, we know we are in a massive housing crisis. There's 14,000 homeless in Ireland, or just short of 14,000 maybe. I'm not sure of the most recent numbers. But given that in this current scheme, your primary residence is covered along with one rental property. There, we know a lot of young people have been locked out of the buyer's market. I have a lot of friends and they have good jobs, but they just cannot get buying. And given the fact that there are so many houses in Donegal in particular that have defective concrete blocks that they can't get a mortgage for, if they're living in a rental property that happens to be the second, third, fourth or fifth house belonging to a landlord, be he down the country, be he a Donegal man, given the lack of what's available in Donegal to even rent, what is going to be put in place for these families so that they have somewhere to go?
Well, like as Pearson Potter spoke to that, like our commitment is the end-to-end scheme, obviously primarily for the primary principal residence, but it'll have to work through everything. Everything will have to get done. But like it's a case of how you prioritise at this moment in time, and that there has to be some kind of like method of prioritisation that has to happen.
Absolutely.
But like I'm in no doubt of the housing crisis. Now, we hear a lot of it in Dublin has been the housing crisis. Like in any shown, and anybody knows that there's no houses for sale. There's no houses to rent.
I know a lot of people. We see it day in, day out on social media, putting posts up. Does anybody know of a house to rent? I know of a lady who has been looking since, I believe, November. She's got to May to find a house. And she's no further forward.
And look, nobody hears that more than County Councillor. I get phones, I'd say 3-4 calls a day in housing relation, like literally, and it's people at their wits' end. Like you can't even go to social media to put it up because there's nothing there, and you'll get everybody else will come on because people are desperate, absolutely desperate.
What would your pledge be to these people who are desperate? You know, if you're re-elected, would it be a ramp up of social housing? Would it be a ramp up of construction in general? How are you going to try and tackle the housing crisis within Donegal?
Well, Donegal County Council, you have only so much power in that you need government funding in order to get the capital infrastructure to get it going. Like we will be fighting extremely hard to get it's the biggest issue across the board. Housing, be it defective blocks, needing to rent houses, buy houses, social housing. That is the biggest issue, and like we have to be getting land zoned to be suitable for housing more. And we're fighting that battle in Buncrana, and we need to get affordable housing, and the council has a role to play in that. We need, like the town of Buncrana alone, I'd say it needs about 400 or 500 new houses. That's in spite of the fact that we've another close to 1,000 probably in the town that needs to be locked down. 4,000 across the county needs to be knocked down. So we'd be pushing across every avenue possible, in every venue possible, in every arena possible to make the case for more funding. Now, I'll be working obviously then with hopefully in the short term after the Sinn Féin government, then get Owen O'Brien as Minister for Housing, and I think we're pushing an open door there to get the finances available in zone land to create more houses in Donegal.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on, I've had a lot of people message me about immigration. We know that there's no point in denying that there are agitators in society, but we also know that there are people who have genuine concerns. A lot of people who have very genuine concerns about, and it's not actually necessarily about the immigrants themselves, it's about the resources, it's about the housing, the healthcare, the school places, childcare places. Do you agree that we need to have a discussion around immigration?
Oh, we do. Look, and it's a massively topical issue, and to say anything else would be, you'd be in denial if it wasn't. It's a huge issue. The population of Donegal within about 2 years has increased by about 10,000 people. Now, like that, without any kind of planning. No, it's almost a chaotic way. They were putting people into more or less warehousing people into private accommodation without any plan for it, without any care for their needs, without any thought of doctor spaces, school spaces, and the basic societal infrastructure for those. And that has obviously caused a huge amount of concern for people. Now, like, there is people, I think, that are manipulating this issue, and like, there has been terminology used that I would find to be racist, and I think it needs to be stood down whenever that emerges. I think it's disgraceful and that needs to be stood down. But we should have a mature conversation about the impact of bringing such a huge amount of people into a county without a plan around it.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to, the whole immigration process needs to be relooked at. It needs to be effective, it needs to be efficient, and it needs to be done correctly.
So what do you say to people who say that Sinn Féin are an open borders policy?
That is like a conspiracy, I would call it. We're not an open borders policy or party. I'm not in favour of open borders. I don't think anybody in Sinn Féin would say they're in favour of open borders. I think it was our 2020 manifesto stated quite clearly that we're not in favour of open borders. Now, we do accept that the positives that immigration can bring. We do accept the positives of multiculturalism. We accept the positives of having doctors coming to work in our hospitals, teachers, nurses, and that's undeniable. But we do need an effective and efficient immigration system that meets the needs of our people, that is done effectively and efficiently, that those who do genuinely seek asylum get asylum and are made safe, but those who maybe try to exploit our system don't. Yes. And that's to be blunt about it. And there's people here that are in the asylum system for maybe a year or two before their applications are even assessed. That's not to benefit to anybody.
So you're saying that the system is not efficient at the moment, it needs to be made more efficient?
Yeah, it's shambolic at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, it's chaotic, it's causing stress to people in their communities, and like across the board.
Yeah.
And like we've seen what's happened. There's genuine worry in communities, sincere worry, and it has been manipulated too by a certain small number of people as well.
Okay, so moving on, believe it or not, there are people who are extremely concerned about the fact that the leisure centre in Buncrana has not been touched.
Yeah.
They are saying that it's a facility that at the time was great for them. There would have been a lot of special needs children from the schools who would have used the pool for therapeutic reasons. It was used by a lot of people because they had the pool, the gym service. It was also used to hold community functions at times. And they're walking past this and it's boarded up, and they were promised that when it closed down it was going to be only a matter, it was only going to be a few years. And now they're saying that it just looks like the whole project has been abandoned.
100%. Like, I knocked doors 5 years ago, and it was a big issue then, and it's going to be an even bigger issue now as we go around the doors. There's no doubt about that. And it has lay vacant for far, far too long. And I think there is light at the end of the tunnel, and there is at least a bit of good news on that. We got planning permission passed for the leisure centre at the last council meeting. We are planning to move forward. I was happy to sign the cover letter of the application for the repowering Buncrana project, which is to develop and enhance the shorefront. I moved a motion to Donegal County Council that said that we should enhance or expand that application to include the leisure centre. That was agreed. So the council's regeneration section are working full steam ahead of that. We've got €1.8 million, which we are using to provide. So we've got €1.8 million in a Category 1 application. We have to move forward to progress that to a Category 2 application, which has to be a shovel-ready application in order to be successful. And as part of that being shovel-ready, the leisure centre had to have planning permission, so it was a huge step to get it that far. The designs look absolutely spectacular, first class, modern leisure centre. So I am confident, and the council's regeneration team are extremely confident of succeeding in that Category 2 application. And with it being shovel ready, that means diggers on the ground upon approval. So I can't see any reason why not at the end of this year we see that old derelict leisure centre coming down, and the start of our new state-of-the-art leisure centre people have waited so long for coming ahead.
And talking about waiting on buildings, Crown College.
Yeah.
We know that they have now been waiting for this for over 20, maybe 25 years.
Yeah.
The 3-school campus, which is supposed to encompass Crown College, the Gael School, Buncranaha, and College to Kinloan.
Yeah.
Now we know that it has moved now from the Department of Education to
the ETB.
The ETB.
Yeah.
So when can parents expect to see us all be turned on this campus? Because we know that there has been a compulsory purchase order for the land, but yet again, a compulsory purchase order has been made. It's been moved down the line now to the ETB, but there will be children who will have started Buncranaha Gael School, gone through to College to Kinloan or Crown College, and have actually gone on to university before ever having seen a new campus, which is kind of a shocking indictment, really.
Look, and I'm not going to be an apologist for any delays that those people have experienced. It's unacceptable. As father of a young child in Buncranaha, I need those schools developed as quickly as possible. I have a selfish interest in those going ahead. And again, 5 years ago, people took the streets on that, and it still hasn't happened. There is, again, light at the tunnel there. Now the site is identified. There's designs in place, and it is moving forward, albeit not as we would like it, but it is moving forward. I think the 3 schools got messed around for a long time. They were made false promises, they're given false hopes, but I think now they have a site. Now I do have concerns about the amount of space that the site has. I think they need, and they have a legitimate case to argue for more, and there's green fields around it. I think they should get that for playing fields and for expansion. So that battle is ongoing. We had a meeting with the 3 principals, a number of elected representatives from different parties, and we're all united on that. So it is progressing, albeit much, much slower than anybody would have hoped, anybody would have liked. But I do think there's light at the end of the tunnel, and we will see construction on those 3 schools fairly soon too.
Perfect. And finishing up, I've heard an awful lot of talk this week, and an awful lot of people asking me to ask, even at local level, about a general election. People they're almost offended by the fact that a third Taoiseach will be coming in and they have no say. And these are people that would not necessarily, from my point of view anyway, speaking to them, they're not actually anti-government, they're not anti-anything. They just, one woman actually said to me, she was talking to me with her husband, and she said, this will be the third Taoiseach we've had. We had no say in the road Taoiseach to start with. This is not what we voted for. And we have no say. And surely to God, if this was actually after Simon Coveney had resigned, and she said to me, surely to God, if Simon Coveney has also resigned, Leo Varadkar has resigned their parts in cabinet, is that not a sign that they believe their own government isn't working? And why can't we have a general election?
Well, this government's only existed, they've clobbered together to keep Sinn Féin out. Sinn Féin got the largest vote of any party in the last election. They worked together to keep us out. Fine Gael got the 3rd largest vote. Simon Harris has been elected more or less by the small number of TDs that they have, which isn't, I don't think, a fair democratic process. It's clear there's chaos in government. It's clear the government's on their last legs. And I think there should have been a general election. As soon as Varadkar resigned, there should have been a general election that the people have their say. They're obviously desperate to cling on to power, But that's why I think this local election is probably more important than any local election in living memory, because the government's on the last legs. They've taken a heavily defeat in the referendum, and if there was a Sinn Féin surge across the state, that would put the government's lights out.